You've joined the Monday night edition of The People Show with Mark Wallace, your host and facilitator here on intellectualradio.com, iHeartRadio, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. You also can catch us on Apple Podcasts, if that's where you get your podcast. Well, Donald Trump, the President of the United States, reached what no one thought could be a new low on this past weekend on the comments that he made about the passing of Robert Mueller, who is a decorated citizen of the United States and certainly a war hero, received the Purple Heart. And of course, the president made what some would call the lowest of the lowest remarks about the passing of someone who served this country and who served, in many of our eyes, and certainly in many of our respects, that a person who served the country, regardless of his politics, you didn't know whether he was a Republican, you didn't know whether he was Democrat, you didn't know whether he was an independent, and he served that way. And he served the country with great dignity and great respect. And the sitting president of the United States, in our lifetime, we heard a president say about someone who has served this country, both in civil servant as well as serving this country in the practice of law as a special prosecutor, as a U.S. attorney, under two different administrations. One was a Republican administration and served 2 years under the Obama administration, because as the U.S. attorney, it's a 10-year term, and President Obama, when he came into office, asked Robert Mueller if he would stay on for 2 years. It was accepted by Congress, and he did so. President of the United States praised and celebrated with euphoria the death of Robert Mueller. This is the likes of a vile, despicable human being. And I think that for many who have really worked to try and not lower themselves to the depths that this president provokes and seemingly enjoys. And maybe because there is something wrong with him mentally, maybe his mind has not mentally developed as a 79-year-old man should be. Not sure where his mind and mental state is. Only someone who is of the profession could analyze and determine where his development is. Secondly, President blinked today, or either tried to manipulate the market, but he certainly lied about saying that the country was near a deal with the two real estate people, that Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff supposedly were in negotiations with The leaders of Iran sent a message saying that there was no such talks going on. And of course, we believe, and certainly I believe Iran, because there's nothing that this president could say that I can believe to be true, which is very unfortunate that we can't trust the president of the United States. We can't trust that what our president is saying is the truth. That puts us in a very bad state that we cannot trust, regardless of whether we agree or disagree with the politics. We are supposed to be able to trust that the leader of the free world and the president of the United States making statements that we can believe that what the president of the United States is saying to us is true. There is nothing that comes out of the mouth of this president that we could believe as being true. If you choose to believe what this president is saying is true, there is something wrong with you. If all of the evidence that you have seen of this president, all of the facts that you have seen, no one has to tell you about it. It's not what somebody has heard in some back room or some gossip column. This president has shown you the evidence that he is not a credible individual, period. Period. Regardless of your politics, whether you are a Republican, whether you are a MAGA, whatever label that you fly under, that if you still follow and you still believe in this president, this person, that this person is leading this country on a path for a trajectory of making a more perfect union, there is something very, very disturbed about you. Because this man possessed nothing of character, nothing of a conscience, and certainly nothing of courage to display this kind of despicable conduct as the president of the United States. Now I see people going around and talking about that they are embarrassed. I'm not embarrassed. I'm not embarrassed because the rest of the world knows that this person, certainly the rest of the developed nations and the leaders around the world who are working hard to try to make a democratic process and to make decisions to make their nations better and the lives of people in their nations and the world, for that matter, working in alliances with other nations to keep the world safe, knows that there is something amiss and absolutely despicable and disturbing by this individual. Period. And this is not to be sensational or anything of that matter. I obviously, for a great long time, have never been a fan of Donald Trump. Even when, they like to show these clips that they've seen him with people like Reverend Jackson, they've seen him with people like, Al Sharpton, that doesn't mean anything. That somehow at one time, Donald Trump has always been who Donald Trump is. And history will demonstrate who Donald Trump is. And we're going to be talking about all of that. So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to be talking with some of the winners of the election. We're going to unpack the election and go through winners and losers. And we're going to talk about the big loss that we here in Cook County have suffered because people do not understand what that policy or those offices do. But we're going to talk about that. And unfortunately, we are going to experience over the next 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, unless we stand up and we hold them accountable, and certainly we stand on top of both of them. So we're going to be talking about that. Then we're going to talk to some of those who have won. We're going to be talking with Donna Miller, who is the nominee for the 2nd Congressional District of the United States House of Representatives. And then we're going to be talking with LaShawn Ford, who was successful at becoming the nominee for the 7th Congressional District, the 2nd being on the south side in the Southland, and the 7th being on the west, going all the way to downtown. And we're going to be talking with both of them tonight, and they were both candidates that 10 by 10 to win endorsed for their respective offices. We also endorsed several of the other judicial candidates that were very successful. Bianca Brown, Rick Radiance Ward, and Tiffany Brooks were successful of the 6 candidates that we endorsed. And of course, this is Monday and another edition of Monroe Monday. And always joining me on Monroe Monday is retired veteran journalist Monroe Anderson. And he is with me now, and we're going to bring him on into the studio. Monroe, welcome to the program.
Hey, Mark, how's it going?
It's going well.
Are you enjoying your first days of spring?
The first day of spring was very enjoyable. The first day of spring was very enjoyable. It was 70 degrees.
Yeah, and then
and then the second day reminded us that that's just the calendar.
right, exactly.
Yeah, that's only the calendar.
The weather got downright Trumpish.
Yes. I read a story of a 5th grade class school teacher who asked all of her 5th grade students that if they were Trump fans to raise their hand. And all of the kids wanting to be in favor of the teacher, they all raised their hand except for one. And his name was Johnny. And so the teacher looked over at Johnny and said to Johnny, why are you being different than the other students? And he said, well, I'm a Democrat. And she asked him, she said, well, why are you a Democrat? And he says, because my mother and my father are Democrats. And the teacher said, oh, really? So if one of your parents was a moron and the other was an idiot, what would that make you? And little Johnny said, that would make me a Trump fan. Good.
I suspected that's where you were going. I was waiting how you got there, and you did a good job.
Yeah. So at any rate, let's talk about. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to be talking about the election results, some of the winners, some of the losers, and if there were any surprises in the election for you. But the first thing that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about Robert Mueller and Donald Trump thinking that, and I'm sure that you probably, like me, didn't think that there could be a new low for even Donald Trump. that we thought that he had reached the very bottom of the gutter.
Well,
But
unlike you, I think Trump's bottomless when it comes to bad things to do. So
no, I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing
yeah,
with you. There is no bottom.
right.
There's no bottom. So he just hit a new low.
Yeah, right, exactly.
He just hit a new low
He,
and
he got to
celebrate.
show some digging.
Yeah. But
And whatever.
I also think that it is a new low for even Republicans and any other public official, Republican, independent, or Democrat, that does not come out and completely, um, denounce this conduct from the president of the United States. That he would literally go on and put out a public statement saying, good that somebody is dead because they won't be around to hurt anybody else.
Right.
For a second,
Right. And the person that's hurting everybody is Trump.
Yeah,
That's ironic about this.
exactly. But that's what I thought when I first heard the story. I
Yeah.
thought they were talking about Donald Trump being dead. When they said that you can't hurt anybody else, I thought that he had expired.
Yeah, right.
But much to my disappointment, it was somebody else that he was talking about.
Right.
Now, I know that some people will say, well, aren't you doing the same thing that he is doing? And I guess you could make that argument. But I cannot say that I'm surprised. I can't say that I'm surprised that this would be the statement that he would, eventually make this statement about somebody, because he almost made similar statements, not quite that, but certainly when somebody asked him if he had anything to say about the 6 soldiers that lost their lives in the jet refueling crash. He didn't even respond to it. He went to somebody else and said, "Is there anybody else?"
Yeah.
Or when he made the comments that he made about John McCain.
Right. Exactly.
So, yeah, I guess we really should not be surprised, and maybe we're not surprised, but it's a new low. It is a new low, and like you said, it's bottomless, and we just wait for the next low that is going to come from him.
Right. What I'm worried about as it gets closer and closer to November and the midterms, that he'll go nuclear, literally, to try to stay in power. That's what because there is no bottom, and so we don't know what he will do.
No, we don't know what he will do, and which is is worth that we as the citizens of the United States can't be predictable about our president, because we should be able to have some sort of predictability about our president, and we don't have any predictability about this guy, other than the fact that we certainly know that he will put us in harm's way and continue to put us in harm's way. But that's kind of like what bullies do, is that they get very desperate and they continue to do desperate things. Unfortunately, he happens to be the person who is in the position of power that could bring and cause lots of harm, and there are no safeguards. There are no people within the government that can restrain him.
Yeah.
That was there in his first term.
Right. Although
because everybody there is a sycophant.
Yeah, I think, and the reporting probably will bear this out, that when he announced that Iran had 48 hours uh, to do what he wanted them to do, or he was going to bomb their plant, their oil facilities, producing facilities. And they said, okay, well, you bomb ours and we'll bomb yours. And the market took a nosedive, man. It went down. And Trump pays attention to the market, first of all. But secondly, I think somebody, one of his people, who stayed up half the night practicing not saying yes, sir, went to him and said, boss, if we do this, the whole world is going to be broke for the next generation because it's going to take that long to recover from the energy being lost, from Iran losing theirs and everybody else losing theirs. It's just, we won't recover from this. And so then the next day, he did a tacos on us. And so we're good for now. You know,
What was it, which was a good taco.
Right, exactly.
Right, this was a good taco, but he came out and
out there doesn't know what the tacos is. That's Trump always chickens out.
yeah, and well, we're all celebrating that he did chicken out this time.
Right, exactly.
We're celebrating that he chickened out this time. We're also celebrating that he chickened out those other times because during those tariffs, if he had done, it would have made things even more difficult.
Yeah.
I read a report, and I also have a video that, if we have time, I'll get to it. It talked about how last year 315 farmers went bankrupt. Yeah. 315 farmers went bankrupt. And currently, about 53 farmers a day are filing what is called a Chapter 12.
Yeah.
And many of them may not be able to recover based on decisions that the president has made as it relates to their crop.
Right. And they voted for him.
They voted for him and supported them. Now, I was having conversation with some people about this because I am struggling. I am thoroughly confused that people made a rational, or they think that they made a rational decision that this was somehow going to be better than voting for the first time for Hillary Clinton as president and the second time for Kamala Harris as president, or even voting for Joe Biden as president. I see this as I saw it then, that the Democrats, as they say, snatched victory, or what is it? Snatched the jaws of victory out, or something like that. Somehow that saying goes. But I believe that they did that when they decided not to hold up Joe Biden and not to say to the world and to the country, look, if the president is not able to serve, that's why we have a vice president. If you're so concerned about the president, have we forgotten that that's why we have a vice president to step into the shoes of the president?
See, and I submit that for many of them, that was their major concern, is that if something happens to Biden, we're going to have one, a woman, and two, a black woman at that. And they said, oh, Lord, we can't do that. Let's go back to the devil we know.
Well, then that is to say that what I call the machine Democrats, that the hardliners, that they were just as complicit, and maybe they had the same concern, or they had the same problem. Maybe the hardline Democrats did not want for there to be at any time Kamala Harris stepping into the presidency. So what they did was we'll poison the entire system and force Joe Biden out, and he'll have to endorse her, and she'll run and she'll lose. I never thought that was a good decision. I thought that
what part of it did you not think was a good decision? Or
I didn't think it was a good decision for. First of all, I never thought it was a good decision for them to buy into this going against Joe Biden.
yeah,
If the Republicans could wrap their arms around this without any criticism, if they could wrap their arms around this, we should have wrapped our arms around Joe Biden the same way as, there's a biblical story about them holding up the arms of Joshua when the Amalekites were attacking Israel. And as long as they kept, because he was old, Moses, I'm sorry, as long as they kept his arms up, that the Amalekites were winning. Whenever his arms were lowered, Israel were winning. But whenever he would raise his arms, they would be losing. And so I liken that the Democrats should have been doing the same thing. They should have been propping Joe Biden up, even if he had to be set in a wheelchair.
yeah,
They should have been propping him up all the way through, because they had a record to prop him up on. It was not like they didn't have a record. They had a record that they didn't message to the country at all. They didn't message it well at all to the country.
Right. Reagan had Alzheimer's, and the Republicans managed to keep him in through his second term.
Made him seem like he was, a spry 30-year-old candidate. They kept his hair dyed, and they kept his tie tied and his shirts pressed. Made sure that he got plenty of sleep whenever he would make a 5-minute speech, and you thought he was as sharp as a tack.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my rant on that. So the president goes on and decides that that lies about that Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff were in communications with the Iranians, and that they were on the verge of this great deal. I'm so tired of hearing about the deal as though we're making some sort of real estate transaction. And the Iranians came right out and said, "Oh, they weren't talking to us."
Yeah, right. No, it's for him. It's real estate and oil. Those are the two. He just follows money, and you know what Trump is going to be doing. What his every motivation is about. Well, maybe young girls.
Well, the last report that there's 5,000 of our soldiers that are going into to the island of what is it, Car? The island of Car. What are they going to do? They're going to just sit over there?
Right.
That's like sending the soldiers into a complete death trap. If you think that he's going to send those soldiers into the Strait of Hormuz, you're sending them into a death trap. It reminds me of the first movie called First Blood. when the sheriff said that they were going to send a whole slew of their men into the woods after after Rambo, and the colonel said to him, "Well, if you're going to send that many men, make sure you send a good supply of body bags."
Right, right, right. Yeah. No, it's not a good. There are 90 million people in Iran, and a lot of them are part of our enemies who want to see us and Israel dead. And so we can't kill enough leaders. They set up a system where they have a system for each person, each quote leader that we kill. There's another one in place. It's all mapped out. Unlike the way Trump is running everything, where it's by the seat of his pants, except for 2025, of course. The right wing 900-page plan that he denied that he knew anything about, with the exception of that, which he's been going through the numbers on that, but still, I mean, this war is a fly by the seat of your pants situation. I knew that you don't mess with the straight. You just That's where the oil goes through, and it's narrow, and it's too many ways that it could be blocked. And
Well,
so,
anybody who knew anything about foreign policy, and everybody knows that's why, you know, probably 95% of the world knew nothing of the Straits of Hormuz, except for those of us who, you know, have some understanding of how the world actually operates.
yeah,
Uh, but everybody knew that this pathway, right? That this pathway is not one that you would, that you would mess with.
right, exactly. Now that's a vulnerability.
Right.
One of the I'm told one of the sexual fashions right now is strangling. Or that's another word for it. But where you put your your hand around somebody's throat while you
Hmm.
have sex, and it's supposed to increase the pleasure or something. Well,
Hmm.
that's where the oxygen needs to go for your brain. It
Right.
doesn't seem like a good practice to me, and that's what Trump is doing with the straight right now. Is he's strangling the oil, the power that the rest of the world needs.
Well, the problem is he didn't have a plan for it and didn't even know anything about it. And
Yeah,
I'm not sure that his advisors advised him about the Strait, and his own Secretary of Defense. It goes to show you his incompetence, because they never had a strategy as to how are we going to deal with that. If the oil was so important to him, that you would have thought that there would have been a real comprehensive conversation to say, Mr. President, the Strait is the defense mechanism for Iran if we attack Iran.
right, right,
That is
right,
their defense mechanism. They might not be able to send a bomb over here, but they can certainly shut and strangle off the resources
right,
that that conversation probably never took place.
right. I don't think it did either. Well, and one of the thoughts I've had, Mark, is that if this war is as critical as Trump says it is, if basically the end of the world if we lose this war, according to what Trump says. Of course, he speaks in superlatives all the time, but if it's that important, Trump has a 20-year-old son that ought to be signed up and ready to go. to fight to save the world for his daddy. You think that's going to happen? You think Barron's going to?
No, Barron is going to follow in the footsteps of his dad.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He's already shown him how to be a draft dodger.
Yeah, right.
Now, what I think is that every one of those card carrying MAGAs should be willing to go and sign up and to go if they think that he is, this is such a great president. They should go and sign up to be on the front lines.
Well, a lot of them are too old for that, so that's not going to work. But what's interesting is that the manaverse that developed for Trump, where all the young men, instead of voting for a Democrat, went Republican because Trump's so macho. They should be joining up for sure. Because they think they're tough. We bad. They ought to be right there. Saying, okay, let's go to Iran. We're gonna save the world. It's
right. Well, I think that so he's given a 5-day announced a 5-day pause on the strikes because there is this imminent deal that is in place. So we'll see what happens in 5 days from now on this 24th day of the war. We'll see.
What's going to happen is he has 5 days to figure out to declare that we won the war, and therefore we're getting the hell out of Dodge. But it's too late. He's made such a mess. It doesn't matter. I mean, 5 days from now, he can declare the war won, and say we're going to send all the troops and the boats and the airplanes and the bombs and the missiles and the all everything. We're going to bring it back to America.
Well,
that's not Iran from. Iran gets a vote in this war now. And
well, I think in a real sense, you can say that Iran has already voted.
Yeah,
because they do not care about dying as a badge of honor based on what they believe.
Well, I'm not so sure the leadership believes it, that they've been killing
Well,
off.
the leadership doesn't believe it, but they certainly believe it. They have their people believing that when you go and wrap a bomb around yourself and go and blow up other people, that you're dying in honor.
Yeah.
You don't see any Americans going to do that.
Occasionally,
that's not ingrained. It's not ingrained like it's ingrained in those countries.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So, all right. So let's turn to the election. So we're going to be talking with hopefully Donna Miller is going to be coming and joining us for just a few minutes. I know that they're very busy, but so we'll be talking with her and certainly talking with LaShawn Ford. So let's turn to the election. Were there any surprises in the elections for you? In the midterms? Oh, I'm sorry, in the primary?
Given the circumstances, I was surprised that Jesse Jr. lost.
Really?
Yeah. You and I talked about this earlier. And with the exception that I think that he did himself in when he started attacking the presidents, the 3 presidents that came to his father's funeral, because each of those 3 men have people that love them. They're not all loved by the same group, set of people. Each of
Right.
them have their separate fan clubs.
Right.
And because it was a no-win situation, but it wasn't necessary, and I try to understand why he said what he said, and it may not have been as bad as it was reported. I think the media put a little extra something on it to make it sound worse than it did, but it was he shouldn't have gone there at all.
Well, I'm going to push back a little bit because I think that Jesse has been digging himself a hole. Even first of all, getting into this election, first of all, he should never have run because I don't think that he's ever showed any type of recompense um, to the public for his indiscretions that he made. I'm not talking about the whole the illegal stuff that they sent him to prison for, because I don't think he should have ever gone to prison. Um, but the fact that he harmed the um, the entire district and the entire region for 17 years, and certainly 10 years that I worked with him and saw all of the work that he had brought forth, along with his wife Sandy, in the 5 years that she was there, the work that they had brought forth, that brought a foundation that would be in full-fledged motion on the lakeside development, as well as the third airport would be under construction, which would have been a huge economic boost to the entire region, not just the South Side and the Southland, but into the entire region.
Yeah.
That the harm that he brought by his indiscretions and the trust that he broke with the people, that is something that he never showed any type of contrition for, or coming before the people and saying to the people, I apologize for the damage that I have done.
Yeah.
I would like the opportunity. Well, first of all, like your forgiveness, and would like the opportunity to serve again. He never showed any type of humility to that. He showed himself as being a victim. Then he comes out and he starts to run, and he starts insulting the region by going out doing all of his campaigning in the Southland, and saying to the people in the Southland that this election is not going to be won in the city of Chicago. This election is going
he
to,
campaigned on that.
yes, yes,
Wow.
that
Yes.
this election is going to be won. So those were two things that were significant, that sent a real bad message.
Yeah.
Now, even though 60% of the district is in the Southland, 60% of the district is in the Southland, but you have 24% of the district in the city of Chicago that you've just now turned off.
Yeah. Right.
Right, that you've just now turned off. So you got to rely on whatever votes that you're going to get
Game of
from 60%.
addition, not subtraction.
Correct.
Politics is a game of addition, not subtraction.
Correct.
You don't lose 40%.
Right. Then he comes out with that arrogance. Then, at his father's service, 3 presidents that cost millions of dollars to get them there at the same time, that you invite to come, and you get up and you make this statement not once, but you do it twice at 2 different services. Totally unnecessary. So now it certainly didn't help him. And I'm not so sure that it was the media, as you say, that put some spice on it. But if you looked at the social media posts, the social media post completely was not in favor of what of the position that he took. Whether they agreed with, whether they were in favor of any of the presidents or not, they thought that it was inappropriate for him to do and say what he said.
Okay, Mark, I got a question for you.
All
This is
right.
going to be a good one. We're going to see a man of your wisdom if you can handle it or not. Should the Obamas invite Jesse Jr. to the opening of the Obama Library in June?
The Obamas should do two things.
Okay.
The Obamas should make sure that they have a wing that is dedicated to the history of the service of Jesse Jackson Sr.
Yeah.
Two,
Yeah.
the Obamas should invite the entire Jackson family to the
Okay.
opening
Okay.
of the Obama Center.
Okay.
Because if
And they
they
can't say not Junior. Everybody but Junior is invited.
no, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Now I'm
I said
asking, can they say that? Can they do
they
that?
should they should invite the family. They should invite the family.
I'm being silly. Yeah, no, you're right. That's a good.
Yeah,
That's
they,
a good. That's a good tact.
yeah, they should invite the family. But I would tell you this: I thought that Barack should have, at the service, he should have announced that the Obama Center will include a section that will have the history of the service of Reverend Jackson. That's what I thought
Yeah.
he should have. Because if he had done that, he could have redeemed himself with me.
Yeah.
Right? I thought that the Jacksons certainly operated way above board, that they did, by inviting him to come, because
Yeah.
he didn't deserve to be invited based on the way he treated Reverend for his entire presidency. He didn't deserve to be invited. You went 2 terms and never invited Reverend Jackson to have the beer reconciliation that you had with, Louis Gates and Beergate.
Yeah. Yeah.
You never offered that reconciliation with a man who made it possible for you and Bill Clinton to become not the Democratic nominees to get elected for the presidency.
Yeah.
Right? Neither one of them would have had the opportunity to get elected.
Yeah.
Were it not for the changing of how delegates were now distributed, rather than it being a zero-sum game to it becoming proportional. Michelle should have been at the service. I don't care what her excuse is, she should have been at the service. Santita was her maid of honor.
Yeah.
In her wedding.
But I think they had a falling out. I think that's what I've heard. I don't know for sure. But they had some sort of falling out. And the thing is, there's a right way to do stuff, a correct way to do stuff, and there's a human way to do stuff. And these people are human beings also. So they get jealous or they get pissed off or they get whatever that you and I, all the other human beings do when somebody does something that gets on their last nerve. And so I think that's what we have at play here.
Well, I don't know. I certainly never heard of any fallout being between Santita and Michelle. And all of this time, that was the first time that I've ever heard of there being a fallout.
Yeah.
But we certainly knew about the fallout with Barack, that, he never even acknowledged Jeremiah Wright, who was sitting right there in the audience, maybe 5 or 6 rows away from where he was speaking.
Yeah.
And the idea that he would even denounce Jeremiah Wright when he was running, to me, was offensive. And
I broke that story.
Of him denouncing Jeremiah Wright?
That he was leaving the church. I was doing a blog at the time. And what I would do for my blog that I was doing is I would write it, and then I had a mailing list that I sent it out to. It was 100 and some people. And so I got a call at home that Obama was leaving the church. I got it from the most reliable source on that I could get it from. That was Reverend Wright. He called me, and he didn't call me. He sent me a message and told me that he was afraid that, and he didn't use Obama's name, but he said, "I'm afraid that he's leaving the church."
Mm-hmm.
And I did a blog, a post, saying that I hope that that wasn't the case, and I hope that Obama wouldn't be throwing other people that are critical to him under the bus. I didn't do it as a scoop. I just talked about it very matter of factly that this is what I'm told is happening, and I hope that this is not going to be a practice of Obama's. And
Well,
my blog, which was getting like 50 views a day or something, got almost 1,000 views because it went to one of the people on my mailing list happened to be on CNN TV at the time.
mm-hmm.
And he discussed it on CNN, and the thing blew up. I mean, it was a scoop, worldwide scoop.
Yeah, well, the fact that he went to, I think it was in Pennsylvania, he went and had this big press conference and did this 22-minute speech
Yeah,
denouncing
yeah,
that he was leaving the church and denouncing Jeremiah Wright.
yeah,
I lost my enthusiasm for Barack Obama at that point.
yeah.
I can't remember which one became. His became first, and then Reverend Jackson's became after that. But I found it to be offensive that he could be so strongly take such strong position against black men, two significant black men, and that he would not even before going public have a phone call and a conversation with the men before he decided to go public. But he decided to listen to his all-white advisories,
Yeah,
and to capitulate to that because becoming president was more important than you operating with character. So there is where the rub went for me, was
yeah,
that his soul is for sale, because your soul shouldn't be for sale for anything, any amount of money, no position, anything. So he demonstrated to me that his soul was for sale, that he would sacrifice anything or anyone to become the president of the United States.
See, Mark, you're part choir boy and part Eagle Scout, and so your standards are above the rest of us. But from my perspective, sometimes you got to go for the power. instead of instead of doing the right thing, you got to go for the right thing that's going to get you the power, and that's what
Never,
Obama went for.
never, not at the cost of people. Never at the cost of someone else that who has certainly been significant in my path. Never
Yeah,
would I compromise that ever. Like you could not, there is not a number that someone could offer to me to compromise what I believe.
yeah, I know, I know.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
he demonstrated to me that um, his posture of being this person of character, that is, it's there's a price for it. So I know that people love Barack,
yeah,
and I respect their choice to deify Barack, but uh, politically, the person that I see as a deity politically,
yeah,
his name is Harold Washington, and I haven't seen anybody that has come close to him in my lifetime.
yeah.
Not close in terms of a person who has held political office. Haven't seen it. Barack
Well,
Obama doesn't come close.
yeah, well, yeah, no. Harold had been a lot of things before then. You know, he had been a Democrat. He's been part of the Democratic machine at one point. He had evolved to where he was. He had, he had,
Sure,
he had fought many battles.
I understand. We all are evolving, right?
Yeah, right.
We all are growing. We're all maturing,
So Harold was special. That's what I'm saying.
without
He,
question.
and it's not that he never did things that couldn't be criticized, but
Right.
he was such a special politician. I mean, he was a true talent too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So
But he also had principles, though. He had a principle that was not to be compromised. And that principle was that we have to be equitable. I'm going to be the mayor, and we can negotiate on some things, but it still has to be equitable. He didn't compromise on that.
yeah,
And as you say, he evolved out of the machine,
yeah,
unlike what we have now, is that, for most of the city council members are part of the machine. We
yeah,
have black faces in the city council, but the infrastructure is the same.
yeah. But that's always been the case. And well, not always, but almost always. You had the Silent 16 uh,
Yes.
back 30 years ago. You had black faces that were quiet. Um,
You mean before Harold?
before Harold, 30
Yeah,
years
before Harold, yes.
ago. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
But well, but they fell in line when they saw that Harold won. So they still had their machine card.
yeah,
They still had their machine card, but when Harold was able to um, strategize and get those 5 seats or 4 seats to give him a split um, city council, and he being the tying vote,
yeah,
you know, they kind of turned, they kind of flipped over their machine card, and then as soon as the man died, they flipped it right back over.
right, right. No, and no, and when they flipped it, like Henry, for example. I mean, he was upset with Harold because he thought that now that blacks had won, they ought to act like the whites who before them, when they were in power, the way they acted. And Harold was into his fairer than fair thing, and so that was not a happy cause for people who.
Well, but I think Harold was smart and he was right and was saying, look, he was saying to them, we're going to get our fair share, but we don't have to be like them
Yeah,
in order
right,
to get a fair share,
right, right,
right?
right, exactly.
So,
No, but what I'm
uh,
saying is there were some black aldermen who didn't agree with him,
mhm.
but he he was such a force among the black people in Chicago that they had to go along un, unhappily. They went along, but they had to go along.
Exactly. They had to
Yeah,
go along. You're
yeah,
exactly right because he was such a dominant force.
right.
And I'm saying this, he was a dominant force of political righteousness, not in being, righteous as a person, but in his political righteousness,
Right.
um, that um, he was not going to compromise that. And he was saying, look, um, and he said that all along in his speeches. You can listen to throughout his speeches. He said, look, for the longest time, in a sense, he was saying, for the longest time, we have gotten little to nothing. Now that I am mayor, we are going to get our fair share, which is going to be significantly more than we have been getting.
Yeah.
But we don't have to throw everybody else under the bus in order for us to succeed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I understand, what you're saying that some.
Alderman Bill Henry's position was, it's our turn. It's like
Well,
they were.
Harold also said it was our turn. He said that right in the middle of the park.
No, that was Jesse.
No, Harold said it. He said it. I remember. If I had the speech, I would play it. He was in the park. I don't know which park it was that he was speaking, because he said to them, you know, it's our time. It's our time. It's our time.
Oh, I said turn, and I didn't say time. I said it's our turn.
Same
That
thing.
no, well, it, yeah, maybe, but it's a yeah. When Jesse said it right after Harold had won, that's why they fell out for a while. Jesse and Harold weren't getting along well
Uh-huh.
because Jesse had commandeered the mic and said something that Harold didn't want said at the time. And
Yes.
so they were strained. Their relationship was strained for a while
Yeah.
until finally Harold gave it up and said Jesse was a force for good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, um, in our um, in our objectives to do well, we are going to make some foolish statements.
Yeah,
And as I said, Jesse always said that the only way to keep your uniform clean is to sit on the sideline.
yeah, yeah.
But when you get in the game, you're going to get a little dirt on you.
Right,
You're going to get a little grimy.
right.
Um, but you have to continue to get up and keep forging ahead. So we're all gonna do some things that are stupid and foolish.
Yeah.
Um, but was Jesse? Would you think that Jesse had any ill intent in any of the, say, foolish things that he did?
Uh, Jesse did everything. So if you were out to demonize him, there's things you could pick that would do just that. But overall, as I agree with what Harold said, and that's that Jesse was a force for good.
Right.
Yeah, but
Right.
everything Jesse didn't do was good, but most of it was.
Well, quite.
Yeah,
Listen, that label is assigned to everybody.
yeah.
That label is assigned to everybody. Anybody who is out working to achieve anything good,
There's one exception.
do everything good.
One exception to that.
Okay.
And it applies to everybody. That they try and sometimes they're doing good and they mess up. Other times they don't. Oh, you want to know who the one exception is?
Yeah. Who's the one exception?
Mark Wallace.
No. 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 No.
Wallace.
No. Let me tell you, I am certain that um that there are plenty of things that I have done under the auspices of wanting to do good
Yeah,
that was not good.
yeah.
But I
I'm messing.
adopt.
That's
No, I
okay.
get it, but I get it. But I adopt Harold's philosophy. The question was asked of Harold, and I wish I could pull that one clip because I have it. But the
Yeah,
question asked of Harold about does he ever, and I'm paraphrasing, does he ever consider decisions that he has made or worry about the decisions that he made? And he said, no, I don't worry about the outcome. He said, once I have talked to my inner circle of people that I have trust in,
yeah,
and I've run it through, my thinking, and I've made the decisions. I go forth. I don't worry about the outcome.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's the problem I think Mayor Johnson has is that he doesn't have a kitchen cabinet group that is,
yeah,
people with experience and wisdom. Uh,
no,
he doesn't seem to have that. He seems to
he's got a
have
bunch of people. He's got a bunch of people, as the Bible say, with zeal, but no wisdom because they don't have any experience. You can't
yeah,
have wisdom without having some level of experience. And
right,
he has surrounded himself with people who are just as green as he is.
yeah, yeah,
And so the Bible says that iron sharpens iron, so one man to another. So that means you should have somebody around that's sharper than you,
yeah,
who understands the landscape, that you
right,
can balance this out with the zeal.
yeah,
Because you do need people with energy. You do need people with who can have some connectivity, but you do need some wisdom around you. See,
right,
there's too much of this emphasis on ageism.
yeah,
Even Barack has bought into it. That he says he was doing an interview with uh, um, what is his name, Tyler Cohen or something, and he said at some point you age out.
yeah,
At some point, and um, to me that is a foolish statement. That is a foolish statement. Is that I want to have somebody around
yeah,
who can derail me from making a bad decision, not based on how smart they are, but based
yeah,
on their experience, that they can tell me in 10 minutes what it took them a lifetime to learn, that I don't have to go down that same path.
yeah. Well, as Dempsey Travis told me, uh, back for one of our lunches, we used to have lunch periodically. He said, you need to know somebody who knows where the potholes are."
Exactly.
Yeah,
Somebody who run into them.
yeah, right, right, right.
Exactly. Exactly. Let me ask you. So, all right. So Jesse Jackson was a surprise to you. He was not a surprise to me.
Yeah.
It was not a surprise to me. What was
Well,
a
I
surprise? strengthening.
I didn't follow it as closely as you did.
Well, what was a surprise to me is
Yeah.
how soundly he lost. I thought it would have been tighter.
Yeah.
I thought it would have been tighter, but he lost resoundingly.
Yeah.
He lost resoundingly, and the people, made. And the place that he ran the most, the place that he put all of his chickens in the basket or whatever, or eggs in the basket,
Right.
he got beat the most.
Yeah.
All 8 of the committeemen endorsed him, did not endorse her.
Yeah.
And she still won handily. All of them, the black mayors, the 17 black mayors, endorsed Jesse.
Yeah.
In the South line, and he
Yeah.
still lost.
Yeah.
So what that tells me is, they made the same error, not mistake, but they made the same error that Pat Dow, Bobby Rush, and I forget the other alders, Stephanie Coleman. Well, I don't think a whole lot of her anyway, but and 100 black ministers
Yeah.
jumped on the bandwagon of Raja Krishnamurthy, who has never been in the black community before last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they all went over there and jumped on that bandwagon because they heard that he had $20 million, and he probably gave them all $300. And they were running around, Reverend Sanders and that group.
Yeah.
Ira Ackrey and that group.
Well, that was that crypto money.
Well, but this, for me, it is eye-opening as to who are the enemies of the black community that are black.
Yeah.
Because how is it that you represent a constituent and you never talk to the constituent, or you don't bring the candidate to talk to the constituent to see what the constituent talked about? This is the second time that they've made this in an election. They did it in the mayoral election against Brandon Johnson.
Yeah.
Nine of the black aldermen supported Paul Vallis, who was propped up by the Republicans.
Right.
Every one of their wards voted overwhelmingly. 80% of their ward voters voted for Brandon Johnson. What does that tell you? They're completely out of touch with their constituents, or they're owned by the machine and the corporatists that own the machine. Now, which is it?
They could be both.
Probably right. Probably.
Two wrong things could be right at the same time.
Yeah. So I've been saying in this election that it's becoming much more clear to me that we are not fighting. We have to fight and break up the machine again, because the machine has become a real stranglehold.
Yeah.
It has become a real stranglehold, as it were, during Rahm and the Dailies.
Yeah.
And so the question was asked, and what really made me think about it, it was that somebody asked a question on social media, that now that we have all of these black people in political office, 193 in the entire state, 20 black aldermen, a black mayor, 6 Cook County commissioners, a black Cook County board president, so forth and so on, 22 state representatives, 10 state senators. Now that we have all of these black faces,
Yeah.
how has that reciprocated in the resources? Now we can look at some indices and say, okay, we've made some progress in some space, right? We can't say that we've made none, but we've made some progress in some. but certainly nowhere close to the representation or supposed representation that we have put into office, into public office.
Yeah.
So that tells me that it's the faces have changed, but the infrastructure is the same.
Yeah.
And so we have some
Yeah.
symbolism right now rather than having the substance that we should have. So that means that we have to break up the symbolism. That means that we have to target those who are the hardline machine Democrats, black ones, and replace them, take them out and replace them with more of the progressives if we're going to break up the machine.
Well, that's easier said than done, because if you just do that without nuance, then you're going to have a bunch of Brandon Johnsons that you're bringing to the table. And they may mean well, but they aren't doing that well. So I think we perhaps could use use a little more mixing and mingling, in the sense of people who want to do right, and then others who know how to do what it takes to get it done. So we need more of that sort of mixture, I think. But we can't. I mean, if we have idealists who just believe that, okay, we have to do it, this is the right thing to do, and then they don't know how to do it, or if they get into office, then they don't know how to pull off what they think should be done.
Yeah, but
Well,
that's a different thing. That's a different thing than breaking up the structure of the democratic machine that just wants to have a stranglehold that only supports the elite or the corporatists. That's a very different thing. I don't disagree that you have to have some balance, but you never have to compromise what is
or some
again.
talent. Harold, again, let's go back to Harold. And
Yeah.
then I got to go cook dinner. Okay. But anyway, uh, Harold was a special talent. And if you look at the mayor of New York, he is a special talent. And so, he has these principles that he's managing so far. Now, he may change, who knows? But right now, I mean, he is really just taking everybody by storm, because he has really solid principles for the people, not the power structure.
Well, and he has the people behind him, which
Right,
makes him even
right,
that's all I'm saying is
right.
that that there are more people that if you spoke to the people and their needs, that you could get behind you, and if you have that kind of support, and I believe it's out there, you can break up that guard that is there to support the corporatists. I mean, you had 16 or 17 black aldermen that voted against the interests of their constituents to protect corporations, and then said to the constituents, I'm going to throw some additional taxes on you. Like, I'm going to double the taxes on plastic bags.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we still have to make up this shortfall. So we're not going to ask the corporations who have record profits to give a little bit more to make up this, to just give 2% of their profits to make up this $100 million shortfall. But we're going to come to you poor people who are already struggling. You can handle it. So, because we got to protect the rich people. The old saying that says, feed the rich, the poor can beg. That's basically what these people have said to their constituents.
Yeah.
And I think that we have to take the same attitude and approach to them that they're taking to the people.
Well, see, the problem, the challenge. I won't say challenge. I won't say problem. The challenge is that these corporations are of a mind now where if you don't support them, if they don't get the right tax breaks or what have you, they just will pack up and leave.
Yeah, that's been an old threat that has never happened. The only person that has left, and in fact, when they do leave, there are some corporations right behind them to fill their seats. There are businesses that are coming to fill this. We're not devoid of businesses that wanted to come to Illinois and come to Chicago.
Who replaced Boeing?
Pardon?
Boeing left. Who replaced Boeing?
But there are several companies that have came. It's not know who. There are multiple companies. But Chicago is not in a deficit because Boeing left. Chicago is not in a deficit because
Chicago in a deficit because Mayor Richard M. Daley sold off all the geese that laid the golden eggs.
Yes, he sold off all of our generators.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
not because some corporations left. Here's a guy who gave away, at the time, it was worth $10 billion for $1 billion. So he sold it off for 1/10 of what it's worth.
Right.
And those people have earned in 12 years all of their investment back.
Right.
In 12 years, they earned all of their investment back.
Right. So they got another 88 years to go or something to benefit from it.
Yeah. Look, if I were the mayor, I would be looking for a way to undo that entire deal.
Yeah. Yeah, but they had very good lawyers put that together, so I don't think you would find any. But who knows? Maybe somebody else will come up with something. Anyway, we can do this and other things. Mark, I need to go cook dinner.
All right. Well, we didn't finish our discussions about the winners and losers, because I definitely want to talk about where the big loss was. You and I had a little conversation about that. Is that the machine got the assessor's office back and the board of review, and so we're back to the days of Burrios and the first lines.
You have two guests coming on that I think it'll be interesting to hear what they think about that, because that's a really solid observation you've made. And so,
well, I've been studying it for 8 years. So, and thanks to somebody like Fritz K, who opened up the books and allowed for us to see what's going on and try to make some reforms. But the machine didn't like that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So hopefully your guests are calling in. They're going to contact you. And you can discuss that.
All right. Okay. All right. One other thing, and then I'm going to let you go cook.
Okay. All right.
Went on the books that is hurting this year. It's hurting the bait and tackle and the fisher business. So Illinois put this new law in the book to go after deadbeat dads.
Yeah.
That if you want to get a license to go hunting or you get a license to go fishing, that you have to show proof of your Social Security. Yeah. So what's happening is they're losing business because if people can't show proof of their Social Security, they can't get a license. So it's hurting the businesses.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff isn't being thought through right now.
No.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
no. Some very poorly written legislation. So that's why the people have got to get involved, because even though some of these legislations have great names, the substance of it is just not there.
Oh, because
All right, that's going to do it for this episode and edition of Monroe Monday. We want to congratulate our friend um, um, Ben Jarofsky, who is back on terrestrial radio starting Saturday at 5 o'clock on WCPT. He'll probably be calling you up to co-host with him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. There's so much going on right now. I mean,
Yes.
just today's news, there was a 4-year-old burned to death, a plane crash, Trump doing Trump stuff, and some murders and a crash. I mean, these are the Chinese curse, interesting times. So
Yeah, we have somebody who's striking the match at the very top.
yes, for sure.
Yeah.
So anyway, I have no doubt that there'll be much for us to talk about in a couple of weeks.
All right. Okay. Look forward to it. All right.
Okay.
All right. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. All right, folks. Monroe Anderson for another episode and edition of Monroe Mondays. And look, my condolences to the two young men who had just started their career as pilot with Air Canada that was involved in a runway crash at LaGuardia Airport. And of course, that investigation is going to go on to see just what happened to that situation. But none of that will bring back the lives of these two young pilots that lost their life. And we'll see just what was the cause of that, and how that could have been prevented. But I want to say that we must, and I'm talking about on a local level, because what happens on a local level is it spawns on the national level, our national politics, but our local politics is important. We've got some people who are trying to infiltrate our local governing and governments with the same nonsense that we see and evilness that we see on a national level. We see that at the state's attorney level, what the state's attorney is doing there. I was in a conversation last weekend at Coalition of African American Leaders, about that, along with the public defender. This is up to us. I know that we hear that, but this is our responsibility to bring ourselves to the position of literally abandoning whatever our trite and trivial idiosyncrasies are, for taking ownership of our democratic process. That belongs to the people. It does not belong to people who the people have elected to do what they want to do any way that they want to do it. And that is what we see happening. And we are being complicit by allowing for it to happen without any type of accountability. Now, what has happened in this past election? There were some good things that happened. I am happy and I am glad that LaShawn Ford won, and I am happy and glad that Donna Miller won. Both of them were supposed to be on. I saw Del Marie that had come on, who was the campaign manager for Donna Miller, but I didn't see Donna Miller join us, and maybe something happened where they were not able to do so. But yeah, she just so yeah. But anyway, I'm glad that those two people won, and some of the other people that we endorsed. And but what is important is that even though that they did win, it is our responsibility to support the measures that we want to see for our communities, and we want to see those people who are in those positions to push them forward. Like Donna Miller, we are going to be relying upon her to push forward the development and the conclusion of closing the deal of the South Suburban Airport. It is 90% there. We own 90% of the land. It is 90% there. The governor finally put into place the infrastructure. The request for qualification went out. They didn't think that anybody would respond, and I think that there was an overwhelming number of developers that responded. So that is not the issue. And this would be a private-public partnership to develop this third airport. We see things that are happening at our own airport. Midway Airport, O'Hare Airport are at their maximum capacity. They cannot expand, and they cannot put any more planes. They cannot put any more people. And this summer, they're talking about, so they're so overcapacitated there that the traffic there is dangerous, so that they're going to have to cancel flights. In 30 years that the South Suburban Airport, recharged by then Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr., to now, in 2026, 31 years later, is still not developed. Ross Perot's son built an airport in Texas, in what they call the middle of nowhere. And that airport now has spawned more than 15,000, and I'm sure that number has grown, 15,000 jobs. There are Fortune 400 companies that are all around that region, and it is a bustling region in that area as a result of one airport. Airports are the greatest generator and expansion of jobs. O'Hare Airport, there are 40,000 people who work in O'Hare Airport. There are another 200 to 300,000 jobs as a result of O'Hare Airport being there. The South Suburban Airport would be a transformation for the south side of Chicago and the Southland area to help to offset these high, exorbitant property taxes that you see people losing their homes because they can't afford the taxes in some of these communities. In Flossmoor, the average tax bill is $15,000 to $20,000 a year. $15,000 to $20,000 a year. So that means that even if you didn't have your home, you're still paying $2,000 a month just to cover your real estate taxes. And some of this is unsustainable for some people. So I am calling upon us. I am calling upon us to get past our idiosyncrasies, to get past some of these ideologies that are just not fundamentally sound. What is fundamentally sound is when the people come together. We must actualize that. We must actualize that, and we must hold the people who look like us, that are supposed to be representing the interest of us, so that we can hold them accountable. And the only thing that they will respond to, are organized bodies of people, not 15 or 20 or 25 or 30. We have to put together thousands of people who are willing to stand up together and say together to all of our representatives that if you want for us to support you, we are demanding that you shift from being these corporatist protectors and putting all of the responsibility and choking our communities and choking our poor and taking advantage of our poor. Because why? Because the working class and the poor on the south and west sides of Chicago don't have the option to pick up and move, nor do they have the desire. And the person who is the corporatist, or the people who have the six-figure salaries, don't have the desire either. And so, but that's not going to change if we do not change. We have to be the change that we want to see. And until we do that, and until we stop being fractionized amongst ourselves, we are not going to see the kind of change that we all talk about all the time, that we talk about in these silos of conversations. And it is not about some one person ego tripping. We all can ego trip, in a sense, when we see that our communities are flourishing. And our communities will flourish because we, as a body, come together in a very socialistic manner. What do I mean by a socialistic manner? That we bring ourselves together and we say to the powers that be that we have entrusted those offices with, that you are going to have to change the course of how you are governing. If you do not change the course of how you're governing, and we give them whatever those desires are, if you do not change the course of how you are governing, then we have to get someone else to govern. Nobody who is in a political, or I shouldn't even say political, but no one who is in a public office, a public position, and I use the word public intentionally because it belongs to the public, not to the person who is there. The person who is there has been entrusted by the public to serve the will and the common good of the public. That's what governing is. Governing is not running government like a business. A business is designed to make a profit, to make money for the people who own the business. The government is responsible, and those who are entrusted with the government are responsible for governing for the common good of the common public. That's what governing is. It is not a profit center. You have to invest in people so that you can improve the quality of lives of the people who need the help the most. That's the kind of of what government is supposed to be. Government is not supposed to be about giving huge contracts out to these big fat companies and privatizing all of our public commons. Can you imagine privatizing our police department? Can you imagine privatizing our fire department to a private interest? Because the bottom line to them is, how do we become profitable? And then they start to manage their company to be profitable, not for the common good of the public. Our police department and our fire department operates under a socialist model because it is shared by all. We all contribute to it. That's what a socialist model is. This idea of romanticizing capitalism, which Kwame Ture calls a dumb, stupid system of another form of enslavement, is what it is. But we have the common responsibility of all of us contributing ourselves together if we really want to see our communities to thrive. We have the power and the responsibility to do that in this region. The way that we are set up in this region of Chicago and Cook County, here in this region, we have the enormous opportunity before us. If we just brought 1/3 of us, if we just brought 1/3 of us together, we would draw the attention of the other 70% of our community. That we would be able to influence real significant public policy change, from education to economics, to the safety of our communities, to the safety of our women, to the safety of our children. We could bring down these indices by bringing up the economics. As Jesse Jackson would say, we're going from civil rights to silver rights, meaning that there has to be economic parity, that we don't have the luxury of individualism. Kwame Ture would say that no Black person in this country makes any advancement solely based on his or her worth or talent. All individual advancement is based on mass struggle, meaning that we have to bring ourselves together. We make no progress in this world without shedding our blood. Therefore, brothers and sisters, your advancement and success does not belong to you. It belongs to the people. And if you do not use your success or advancement for the benefit of your people, it is a betrayal of the people who shed their blood for you. That means that we have a common responsibility, that whatever little success that any one of us have, it is not because we are so brilliant. It is not because we are so talented. It is because somebody else laid a pathway. Somebody else made sacrifice through blood, through their life, in order for that pathway to be opened for me or for you to walk down that pathway and enter that opportunity. And we have that responsibility going forth. We do not have the luxury. We do not have the luxury of looking at certain people and determining that individual success, that somehow we have made it. And we don't have the luxury of sitting back waiting for somebody else to save us, as we all say. That is much like a barometer. A barometer is one that takes the temperature. The thermostat is the mechanism that determines the temperature. We have to become thermostatic rather than a barometric system. We need to be the thermostat. We need to be the determiner of what the temperature is and is going to be. Rather than we sitting back and waiting and saying that we will take the temperature and see whether, no, that has been our problem. We need to be the thermostat. We need to be the decision maker on what the temperature is going to be, what the outcomes are going to be. In order for that to happen, that means that a whole lot of us, but a few of a lot of us, 100,000, 200,000 of us, can turn Chicago and Cook County governance upside down. I can guarantee it if we brought ourselves together. I can guarantee you that we can shift every indice from education to economics, whatever it is that you think, whatever it is that's important to you. If we brought ourselves together, we could address that concern and we can make and measure the development of that. We can be the determiners. We can be the thermostats. We need to become the thermostats. We need to stop being the barometer, letting somebody else set the temperature, and then we have to adjust to the temperature. If it's too cold, nothing we can do about it except for we just got to make sure that we have the wherewithal to keep ourselves warm. Or if somebody decides that it's going to be too hot, then we have to figure out how we can respond to it. We need to reverse that course. We need to be the ones who set the temperature, who set the model, who set the agenda. There is only one way that you can do it. Only one way that you can do it. And it is not going to happen through individualism. Not going to happen. All right. So I think we should continue this. And those of you, if you haven't, I'm asking you that this is what we are talking about doing every Thursday night, is about finding a way to expand that collective corporate agenda of abandoning individualism and embracing a collective approach. So if you have not become a part of that conversation and you really believe and want and desire to see real change in our communities, and you're willing to be a part of that, thinking outside of our individual selves. Because if we work to help to lift our communities, we cannot help but lift ourselves. But we have to be willing to bring ourselves together in a corporate body to do that. It is just that fundamental. It is just that fundamental. We can execute the plays, but you cannot execute the best playbook if you do not have a team. So you can put together the best agenda, but if you do not have a team, you cannot execute the agenda. All you have is a great plan. But if you don't have great players, if you don't have great team working together, then that's all you have is a book with a solid plan with no one to execute that plan. So let's join ourselves together so that we can execute great plans, because we've put together great plans. Many people have put together great agendas. Many people have, down through the years, put together great agendas. But that's all, and so far as we've done, is different groups have put together great agendas. Why hasn't any of those agendas become the reality for the masses? Is because we haven't brought the team together of the masses in order to move any of those agendas forward or into fruition, because you have to have a team. You can have the best plays for the Bulls, the Bears, or whatever team that is your favorite team. If you do not have a good, solid team to execute those players or those plays so that you can have a victory for the masses, for the entirety of the team, then that's all you have is a good playbook. But you don't have any players to execute it. So what good is the playbook? It's of no value. And as long as we are operating that way, the people who are in these positions will continue to govern the way that they're governed without thought or consideration for you. The fact that your older people could vote for a budget that supports the very wealthy corporatists and puts a tax on an already struggling constituents sends a message to saying that they know that they control you rather than you controlling them, because one, they know that we are fractionized. They know that they can pick us off. And so they don't have to be responsible to us. We're being responsible to them. Like it or not, that's where we are, is that we're responsible to them. It's not a personality contest. It's not about relationships. We must be transactional. In other words, we support those who respond to us. That's called transactional. That's not a relationship. A relationship is somebody that you can rely on, depend on, and you're committed to, but it is also transactional because both parties are ensuring that the other is fulfilled. Nobody goes lacking. That means that two people decide that they abandon their agenda for the agenda of the person loved. And if that is the execution, if that is the fundamental, that nobody goes lacking, because I am looking out for whatever is important to you to make sure that you are fulfilled, and you are looking out for whatever is important to me to make sure that I am fulfilled and whole, then we both are enjoying that relationship and the transaction. But we have got to understand that improving the quality of life in our communities is not about relationship with our government. It's transactional. If those people want to be in relations with us, they have to be in transaction. They have to be transactional, and they have to show that they care about us. That's how you know you have some relationship, that the transaction demonstrates empathy and concern for us. And we must have that kind of focus. If we don't have that kind of focus, if we are not willing to have that kind of fundamental focus, to say to every person that is in a public office, it is not about your personality. It is about the power of your deliverance. If you can deliver, then we will continue to hire you. If you don't deliver, you don't get the arrogance to dictate to us what policy you are going to support or not support. You don't get that benefit. You do not get that benefit to dictate to us what it is that you're going to do, and you don't talk to us. That's exactly what happened in this election. Again, all of these 100 black ministers that have whatever, 50, 15, 100, 200 members, never went to their members and asked their members what they thought about them giving their support to Raja Krishnamurthy. Now, I don't know Raja Krishnamurthy. And but what I do know is that Raja has never been to the black community before last year. That I do know. And these 100 black pastors don't pastor churches that have North Side congregations. Black alders don't have North Side constituents that went all the way to endorse and support Raja Krishnamurthy and never talked to the constituents. They did the exact same thing in the mayoral election. They supported Paul Wallace, who had a horrible record of destroying the job health of many black women and started the closure of schools in black communities. Carried out through the Rahm Emanuel administration. But then they would support Paul Wallace, who was propped up by extremist Republicans, Betsy DeVos, Sam Zell, who's now deceased, Ken Griffey, who is in Florida, Jennifer Pritzker. These extreme Republicans put on 20 some odd $1 million. And we had 9 of our black aldermen that endorsed Paul Wallace. In every one of their communities voted for Brandon Johnson. 80% of their community voted for Brandon Johnson. They never talked to their constituents. They never went to their constituents to ask their constituents what they thought. So, again, I'm going to put it in the chat. If you haven't, I'm going to ask you to text 10x10 to 855-909-1385. 1385, and get in the text alert and let's have a conversation. Join us on Thursday. Every Thursday at 6:30, we have a Zoom meeting. Send that text and you'll get into our text alert and you'll receive the Zoom alert. All right, that's going to do it for this Monday night. We'll see you next week for another edition of The People Show on intellectualradio.com and iHeartRadio. Good night.